Hi, my name is Owethu. I am from here in Durban, South Africa. Um, I'm 23 years of age and I left here when I was around one, and I was in going about in different countries like Cuba, Prague, etc. And then I came back here in 2011, where I really believe a lot of my development started. Um, yeah. So my life before Christ, I was anxiety ridden, depressed, in an existential crisis, really, um, very hopeless, but had so much love to give, and really was wanting to experience love. So sometimes I felt like I did overcompensate, but there was something in me that was just naturally yearning for sense of love and yearning for truth, yearning to understand what and why we were created to be in this world. I believe my waywardness was not one that was very external. It wasn't something like I was struggling with partying and drinking and drugs and alcohol, but it was a very internal thing, things that people don't see. And I would say the separation that I had from God was merely living in like my own personal kingdom without realizing. Very isolated, had my own opinions that stayed in my head, had bitterness that stayed in my head, and anger, and even sometimes feelings of hate, sometimes even experiencing murderous thoughts towards people in which I'd never express, and really finding myself being very hyper independent. And that on its own is just horrible, because anything that separates you from God, it does create pride. And I will confidently say, I was in a place where I was prideful. I may not have seen it, but it was happening in the ways I was interacting with the world around me. A story that I would say will reveal how far away I was from God would be the life I was living on a regular. It was the same routine. My number one purpose was to get validation from my parents, from people, from the world. I was yearning for validation, and I was trying to fill a void with academics, speaking while trying to constantly pick at my appearance and see where my flaws, and trying to educate myself, reading self-help books, really trying to constantly, the whole trend of growing up to try and change myself. That was the constant life I was living. Try and change myself, but at the same time in great despair. And there was no recognition of a creator in my mind. I just wanted life to go my way and things to make sense. The entire journey of me encountering Christ, it's such a, God is so intentional, and the way he pursues you is very interesting, because it was in January 2019. I was trying to speak to my now boyfriend Chico, but at that time he was my friend. And we were having multiple conversations about the world and life. And he started really speaking to me, pouring into me challenging me about things surrounding Christianity and the faith, because how I viewed God was very, very vague. So it was God. So it's the God of the Buddhist, Christian, like the one God. There's no like a true God in a specific way. So when he started telling me about Jesus and really shifting the way I saw the Bible and God, it really started to open up my heart and soften my heart to actually seek the Lord. And I started seeking God. At first, it was really amazing. But then, obviously, when you're not rooted and having a foundation, and as soon as life goes bad again, you start questioning God. So I went into a series of doubts and anger towards the Lord. And one of those anger moments was in 27th December 2021, in my kitchen. And I was angry at God. I was angry at God. And I remember wanting such a manifestation of Him showing Himself to me. So, with that anger, disrespectfully so, I shouted and said, "If you're a real God, then you'll show yourself." And I said a lot of crazy stuff. And despite all the crazy stuff that I said, He encountered me. I encountered Him, sorry. And I felt this warm embrace, like a physical manifestation on my body that I couldn't contain, that literally caused me to fall flat on my face on the floor. And I started crying out and I said, "Jesus is real, Jesus is real." And I gave my life to Christ on that very moment, on my kitchen floor, crying out to the Lord. And ever since then, my life has turned around. And I'm so grateful. So, so grateful. So I got baptized on the 6th of March, 2022. And it was such a signifier, even though I was nervous. I didn't know if I could do this whole Christianity thing faithfully and stay. But I just remember feeling so much peace and feeling so much freedom. And right after baptism, the Lord really started giving me dreams, endless prophetic dreams and visions of a room full of young people, different color, skin tones. And there was just people encountering Jesus. There was worshiping. I saw myself worshiping. I saw myself praying for people in different dreams. And this was not anything I've ever done or encountered. And I was like, this is not me. And here we are now in 2025. And I'm a part of the team for youth and young adults here at Dwell. And a lot of those very moments that I encountered in those dreams are happening. Young people on fire for God, encountering Jesus. I get to minister. I get to be a vessel of the Lord. And one of the greatest moments is when I got to baptize a few of the girls in Furnace. And it was literally a day or two before the date I got baptized. And it was like, God is so intentional. It was so beautiful for me. And I can't believe that everything He showed me, I'm doing, and even more than the dreams He gave. And it's amazing. One thing I would just continuously say about Dwell is there's the love of God, and there's a journeying with people. You get to be equipped in everything that the Lord has to offer in sense of the commissioning of the kingdom, the Great Commission, and get to be a part of something where Jesus is not in a building, but we're taking the church and we're taking Jesus to people. And I've grown and not just grown, but I've gotten to have such a compassion for the lost because of that, because of being in such an atmosphere where people yearn for Jesus to be known all over. And that is just the signifier of Dwell. Kingdom, finished work. And just doing what Jesus commissioned us to do. Make disciples who make disciples, spreading the gospel, the good news, Jesus, the death, and him rising on the third day, the finished work of the cross. Yeah, basically. When we're separated from God, we constantly seek to fill a void with mainly earthly and worldly things, even our friends and family. But that void cannot be filled. And sometimes, even when we're in a place where we know God and we know Jesus, we can easily be in a place where we still want to isolate and think fellowship is not important. And I completely disagree with that, because when you're seeking to be in a sense of closeness with the Lord and experiencing Him more, there's such a power in unity. There's such a power in fellowship. And I'd say, come on in and be in a room full of people who have that faith to seek out for the things of the Lord or what He wants to do, where you get to experience love, where you get to grow, where you get to really learn how to have intimacy with God. And that's what I would tell someone seeking the Lord, or seeking to be in a place of fellowship, a church, a body. That's what I would say.